This YouTube channel, English Sponge, is all about learning English with comprehensible input. And we can use comprehensible input to learn new vocabulary in a very deep way. But what exactly is comprehensible input? And how can you use comprehensible input to learn a language? This video will answer all of your questions. So first of all, what is input? Well, input is basically information coming in. So in terms of languages, this would be reading and listening. So input is reading and listening in languages, while output would be speaking and writing. That would be output. So we have input and we have output. So now we know what input means, but what is comprehensible input? Comprehensible input is input that you can comprehend or that you can understand. It's comprehensible. And as I said, it's both listening and reading that are considered comprehensible input. But in today's video, I'm going to focus on listening. The perfect level of comprehensible input is a kind of input where you can already understand at least 80% or higher of everything that you're listening to. This is the perfect level of comprehensible input where you can learn new vocabulary the most effectively. Because if you already understand most of what you're listening to, that means that when new words and new vocabulary do appear, then you can more easily understand what this vocabulary means because you already understand all the other words that surround it. When the level of comprehensible input is correct, you can usually understand new vocabulary from the context that surrounds the words. Some teachers would go as far as to say that the comprehensible input you're listening to should be something where you can already understand 95% or more of the input already. Personally, I would say anything where you understand more than, say, 80%, 85% is good enough, in my opinion. So when learning a language with comprehensible input, it's very important that the comprehensible input is the correct level for you right now. If the input you're listening to is too high level for you, it's too difficult, and let's say that you can only understand 50% of what you're listening to, then you're not going to learn vocabulary very effectively, and it will probably also not be much fun and maybe be a bit frustrating because you have to keep stopping and translating words and you can't really enjoy the content. On the other hand, if the content is too easy and you already understand 100% of the vocabulary that's being used, then you're not going to learn very much and you will feel like maybe you're kind of wasting your time. So the perfect sweet spot for comprehensible input is when you can already understand 80 to 95% of what's being said, and then there's this small chunk of words which you do not understand yet that you will learn just by watching the comprehensible input and just by listening to these words being used in context. At the correct level, you can learn vocabulary just by listening alone. And if you simply continue to listen to comprehensible input at the correct level for you, you will continue to build more and more and more vocabulary. And you don't need to do anything else except for just keep listening to comprehensible input. You don't need to pick up a book. You don't need to pick up a pen. You can learn all of the new vocabulary you need just by watching videos and listening to English. And of course, because all of this new vocabulary is learned in context, you will likely learn it in a deeper way and you're probably not going to forget that new vocabulary as easily because it has been learned in a deep way in a context. If you are learning to comprehensible input at the correct level in English, then that is enough to learn new vocabulary. You don't need to do anything else except just pay attention and listen. Now, when listening to comprehensible input, you do actually need to pay attention. You do actually need to focus on what you're listening to. If you have English playing in the background, or if you are scrolling your phone while you are listening to English, you're not really going to learn very much like that. So you do need to focus on what you're listening to and what you're watching. But as long as you're focused and as long as the level of input is the correct level for your current level, the correct level for you, then you will learn simply by watching. Nothing else is necessary. The simple answer is no, you do not need to take notes when you're learning by watching comprehensible input. After all, what is the purpose of taking notes? A lot of students, I think, like to take notes just because it feels like they're supposed to take notes. Just because it feels like if they're not taking notes, then they're not like studying properly. I think that a lot of students just do that to feel like they're studying. And in a lot of cases, students will take notes when they're listening to English, and then they will never look at these notes ever again. But okay, maybe you do take notes and maybe you revise the vocabulary after you have finished listening to English. What is the purpose of taking these notes? Is it because you want to try to look at them afterwards and try to memorize the words after you've finished listening? Memorization of vocabulary is not necessary to learn English. You can learn new vocabulary just by watching and just by listening. There is no need to actually take notes and then look at the notes afterwards and try to remember them. Now, the learning happens while you listen. The learning is happening while you listen to English. I would say instead of taking notes while you listen and then spending time looking at your notes afterwards, why not just use that time that you spent taking notes and looking at your notes, just use that time to listen to more comprehensible input. After all, it's through the act of listening when you actually learn the vocabulary. It is not through the act of writing them down or looking at notes or reading notes. The learning happens while you listen. Of course, you can take notes if you want, if you feel like it helps you somehow. All I'm saying is that it's actually not necessary to learn. If the level is correct for you, listening to it should be kind of easy. Like, it kind of should not be a lot of effort to try and listen and understand the video. You should not have to keep pausing and stopping and trying to translate words in order to understand the video that you're watching. If the level is correct for you, you should be able to quite easily understand generally what the video is about and what the speaker is talking about. Even if you don't understand every single detail of what they're saying, you should be able to easily follow what they're talking about. Quite often this can mean actually bringing down the level, reducing the level so that you can easily understand the video. A lot of students, they are tempted, they like to go ahead, to jump ahead to the more advanced levels. Probably because the more advanced levels are maybe a bit more interesting, right, than the beginner levels. The beginner level comprehensible input can be a bit more simple and maybe a bit more boring. So people try to jump ahead to a higher level. But you should not really do this. You should try to stick to the level where you can generally quite easily understand what is happening in the video. Again, you should be able to understand at least 80% or more of the words that you are hearing in the video. At least that's the ideal situation to learn vocabulary through comprehensible input. While generally you should try to listen to comprehensible input at the correct level for you, at the sweet spot, it is possible to listen to things that are either below your level or even above your level. For example, there are some benefits to listening to English which is actually below your level. When you listen to English which is actually too easy for you, which is very easy to understand, and you understand 100% of the words that are being used, it does give you a chance to notice some of the smaller details of the language. Because your brain is not dealing with lots of new vocabulary, it can leave some extra space for you to notice some of the smaller details of English that you may not have noticed if you were busy looking at new vocabulary that appeared. For example, you may notice that it's not these people is, but it should be these people are. Or you may notice like that you should say, I'm good at maths and not I'm good in maths. When you listen to really easy content, it's a good time to notice little things like this, like little prepositions. Should it be in, on, or at, or by? These kind of small things are what you can notice more with easy content. Now, it is also possible to listen to content that is above your current level. You can do this by using repetition. If you are a B1 intermediate student, you could listen to something that is a B2 level, but you may have to watch the video 2, 3, or 4 times before that video actually becomes comprehensible to you. So you can listen to things above your level, but you will need to repeat them many times before you've really learned properly from the video. So basically, if you do ever get bored of listening to content which is at your level, you can try listening to content which is a bit easier, that below your level, or maybe you could try listening to content a bit higher than your level with some repetition as well, just to change things up, just to get a bit of variety when you're learning English. If you want to watch videos more than once, then you can. You can watch a video 2 or 3 times, and it will help you to learn the vocabulary more and more and in a deeper way. However, it is not necessary. You don't have to watch videos more than once. You can keep changing the video every single time. You can just watch videos once and then move on to the next video and to the next video. That is absolutely fine. If the content is at the correct level for you, then you don't need to repeat the video again. Because if the video is at the correct level for you, you actually really should not have to watch it again. You should not really have to repeat it, because you should have really understood basically everything from one watch if it's the correct level. But like I said, if you do feel like repeating a video 2 or 3 times is helpful, then please go ahead and do it. It's absolutely fine. Here at English Sponge, I'm trying to make a library of videos so that you will never have to repeat a video, so that you can just watch new videos every single day, and so that there's always new comprehensible input available to watch. That is what I'm working on at English Sponge. When you learn a language through comprehensible input, it takes time to really see the results. It takes time to notice when you have improved. After a couple of hours of comprehensible input, you're probably not going to notice much difference. However, after 50 hours, or after 100 hours, or even after 500 hours of comprehensible input, you will really notice a big difference. You will really kind of think back and you will think, wow, like I really have improved by doing this. The great thing about comprehensible input is that you don't have to waste time thinking to yourself like, oh, how should I study English today? What should I do? Should I do writing? Shall I do some speaking? No, it's simple. You just go, I'm going to go and watch comprehensible input. And you know that it's always going to be a good use of your time and an effective way to learn English. There's no doubt about this, because if you're watching comprehensible input at the correct level for you, and if you're paying attention, then you will learn. It is guaranteed. The best kind of comprehensible input for you is videos that are genuinely interesting for you. Comprehensible input where you kind of forget that you're studying, you forget that you're there to study English, and you just start enjoying the video and you're just interested to see what happens next, or you're just entertained by what is happening. That's the best kind of comprehensible input, when you completely forget that you're actually studying a language. However, this is not always possible. Every single video that you watch cannot always be really interesting or really entertaining, but at least you should try to watch things that you don't find boring, right? You should watch things that are at least a little bit interesting or a little bit entertaining. You don't need to watch things that are boring. If you find the comprehensible input video boring, you feel free to just change to another video that you do not find boring. Learning English or learning a language does not have to be a boring thing to do. It does not have to be a grind, as they say. It can actually be quite fun and quite enjoyable and just quite a fun thing to do. My goal with English Sponge is to make comprehensible input videos that are actually enjoyable to watch and that don't feel like you're studying too much. They don't feel kind of like you're grinding and trying to study hard. My goal is to make comprehensible input videos that are pretty easy and enjoyable to watch. Some common advice you may hear about learning English is just watch movies or just watch TV shows. And of course, watching movies and TV shows is a good way to learn English. But movies and TV shows are not comprehensible input if you are a beginner. Yes, if you are a beginner, or even if you are an intermediate student, movies and TV shows are still, honestly, too difficult for you. Movies and TV shows are probably best to watch when you are around B2, upper intermediate level. I would say even if you are a B1 intermediate, it's probably still a bit early to be trying to watch movies. I think that you will only reach this 80% mark with a movie probably at the B2 or even C1 advanced levels. So yes, remember, movies and TV shows are good, but if you can't easily follow what is happening, if you can't understand more than 80% of what is being said, then it's too early for you to learn very well by watching movies and TV shows. Of course, reading is also a form of comprehensible input, and it can work in basically the same way as listening. So you can read a text where you can understand more than 80% of the text with a few new words in the text, and you can learn vocabulary by reading as a form of comprehensible input as well. But for the reasons outlined in this video, I'll put it here, I don't recommend doing reading until you are more advanced at English, until you are around B2 upper intermediate. Then you can focus on doing reading comprehensible input then. I personally don't recommend doing lots of reading in the beginner and intermediate stages as much. Obviously, the more hours that you spend per day listening to comprehensible input, the faster you are going to improve with your English. But remember, of course, that you do need to be paying attention and focused to what you're listening to. If you think that you can listen to 6 hours of English comprehensible input every day, being focused on what you're listening to the whole time, then please go ahead. You will learn very quickly. This is probably not the average person. I would say a good amount of time for the average person would probably be somewhere between 30 minutes on the low end. Even just listening to 30 minutes per day would be enough to see improvements over time. Comprehensible input is great for people who are actually very busy. Maybe they are professionals or they have a family and they don't actually have much free time to study English, but they still want to learn. Comprehensible input is a great way to do this because you can sit down for just 30 minutes every single day and you don't have to think about what I'm going to do, how will I study today, where's my book, where's my textbook, where's my pen, and so on. All you need to do is sit down at your laptop, get your timer, 30 minutes, and focus and listen to comprehensible input for 30 minutes. You could do this every single day, and that would be enough to see a good improvement in your English. And you can do this knowing that you are not wasting any time. No time is being wasted as long as you're focused and listening to comprehensible input at your level. Anyway, I've had a few questions in the comments about what is comprehensible input and how do I learn with comprehensible input. So I thought I would make a video answering some of these questions. Let me know if you have any more questions or any more doubts. You can put them in the comments section below. And thank you for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hello guys. If you want more videos, go to EnglishSponge.com. On the website, you will find videos from many different teachers, some British teachers and some American teachers. The videos are organized by level A1, A2, B1 and B2, so you can choose which level you want to listen to. So go to EnglishSponge.com. The link is in the description of the video.